Hello, dear students. I'm Silvia Caldeira. I'm an assistant professor at the Catholic University in Portugal, in Lisbon. And today it's a pleasure to be with you so we can discuss understanding spiritual interventions at the end of life care. So in this video and in this unit, we will explore the concept of nursing intervention within nursing clinical reasoning as applied to spiritual care. So the objectives are to discuss the dimensions of spiritual interventions at the end of life, to explore different activities that nurses are able to provide, and to understand the nurse clinical reasoning in general and the spiritual intervention in particular. As you know, spirituality is paramount in healthcare, and it is as it is in life. This dimension feeds the meaning in life, which is most often questioned when there is a perception of finitude or a serious illness that may compromise dreams, expectations, dynamics, and life routines. End-of-life experience depends on several factors such as personal, family, social, context factors. Among the personal factors, we can discuss beliefs, values, particularly those related to spirituality that are foundational in the way in which the process of and transition are managed in this end-of-life period. In fact, spiritual beliefs are critical in end-of-life period. When patients are at the end of life, there is a special relationship with healthcare staff, and among this, nurses are in a privileged position for having more contact, more time, and more situations to be closer to patients and to contact patients and family. This proximity in the context of interiority and reflection on life and in circumstances can facilitate assessing the needs that patients may have and to explore spirituality in this context. The nurse, when providing care, the nurse do that based in nursing process that is composed of assessing needs, nursing diagnosis, planning interventions, doing the interventions, and evaluating the results, the outcomes of that interventions. This is the clinical reasoning of nursing, and this can be also understood in the context of spirituality. This process is also involved in autonomy and at the same time interdisciplinarity within the healthcare team. Nursing interventions and spiritual nature fit into what is understood to be end-of-life spiritual care. For example, the European Association for Palliative Care states that spiritual care recognizes and responds to the human spirit when faced with life-changing events or sadness, and can include the need for meaning, for self-worth, to express oneself, for faith support, perhaps for rites or prayer or sacrament, or simply for a sensitive listener. Spiritual care begins with encouraging human contact in compassionate relationship and moves in wherever direction needs requires. So, spiritual care and spiritual interventions are patient-focused within a multidisciplinary healthcare approach. In this definition that I previously explained to you, it is possible to find that spiritual interventions at the end of life have three main characteristics. One, they are intentional. Two, they respond to signs from patients who require support individually according to their beliefs. And three, they are based on specific resources related to the way of being rather than the execution or doing. So we have here intention, doing, and the attitude or the intention and the way of the way nurse is as a person in that care. So these three dimensions are really important in spiritual care at the end of life. Additionally, in this nurse patient care, um, it is very important the organizational context and dimension, because nurses do need to feel cared by leaders to provide spiritual care, and this spirituality in the workplace is also important for nurturing spirituality and spiritual care in nurse-patient relationship. As generic interventions, we understand those that are related to promotion of spiritual being, promotion of hope, facilitation of forgiveness, facilitation of expressing suffering, and inclusion of family members, or facilitation of expressing beliefs and values. So these are generic interventions, different from the specific interventions that I described before. Regarding the third topic related to specific resources related to the way of being of nurses while providing spiritual care, it's more the execution and the doing. It's about how the nurse is in that relationship, and this includes using resources that are personal, but the way of the nurse is as a person, but also working in a multidisciplinary collaboration in order to meet patients' needs. But also in this topic, we consider in this third dimension, we consider the self-care. That is, the nurse is the main resource for spiritual care, and as so, the nurse should have some self-care to keep healthy and to keep in conditions to provide spiritual care. Spiritual interventions may also be confused between, is that a being or a doing thing? In fact, spiritual intervention is made of compassion, genuine concern for others, and solicitude. However, these characteristics do not exhaust the operational dimension that integrates operational activities, as described before. This means that spiritual care is deeply connected with the way that nurse is in that relationship, but is also about what nurse is able to do to provide that care. It's not only a doing thing, it's also a being dimension of the whole relationship. These issues are particularly important for forgiveness and for specific attention to spiritual distress, for example, in order to facilitate a peaceful death and a regular grieving process for family members. So at the end of this unit, we have discussed the three main dimensions of understanding spiritual interventions at the end of life care, and we hope that this could be helpful in your study and helpful for your activities. Thank you.